You know, dear viewer, it used to be a much simpler time about 8 years ago, back in around 2010. In most of the Western world, it felt like we were in an economic upturn after the financial crisis of 2008. Valve were the undisputed kings of not only digital PC game retail, but also a much more friendly entity as far as developers go.
Steam.
And we would scoff at your Uplays and your Origins. But you know what was more fun than scoffing at the literal cradle of your creation? Playing Valve's games. Yeah, remember that? Before all your Portal bridge constructors, Hunt Down the Freemans and Minecraft card games, Valve was actually making really good games. You know, your Counter-Strikes, that game that got censored in Germany so humans don't die, they just sit there. Half-Life Squared, your Left 4 Deads, and honestly that was pretty much it. And while I don't actually like any of those, here's the one I do. Portal 2. Physics puzzle game with a snarky robot narrator. Wow, that is actually the worst description of Portal 2 I've ever heard. A few years ago, reviewing Portal 2 would have been one of the most backwards things to do. But just for reference, the time between the release of the original Portal and Portal 2 is only about half as long as the release of Portal 2 is, relative to the making of this video. Or to put that in actual numbers, it has been 8 years. Valve. And if there was someone as old as Portal 2 is now, when it originally came out, he would have been playing Minecraft Beta 1.8 then. Ah! And if someone was born on the day Portal 2 came out, he would be playing Fortnite now. Let that sink in for a moment, internet. You did? Great. Anyway, here's what you need to know about the two Portal games. And also those Portal themed VR demos Valve likes to shit out but no one cares about.
Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started.
Wait. Portal 1 and 2 are essentially puzzle games with comedic cyberpunk elements, which base themselves on a core gameplay loop, the main component of which are the titular Latin spacetime doors. You shoot a blue one there, an orange one there, and that's basically it. I mean, figuring all this out really isn't rocket science, is it? All in all, these mechanics haven't aged a bit, and still make for a solid framework, which is an aspect of the game that is highlighted because the gears of gameplay, world, and story all smoothly work with each other. And talking about the world,
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight.
I initially planned to put a bit here where I pretended to talk about how the facility came to be, and how that line guy from Zootopia Tropimania list plays into all of this.
Thank you! I can't believe I'm thanking these people.
But that's beside the point. Because Portal 2 was so refreshing to experience again after all the stupid shit that's been happening over the last few years in video game storytelling. You know, pretentious shit.
You need to get high.
Shovelware, Remedy, etc. It was so fun to have a good solid story that feels like it should be told in a video game. And I don't want to spoil that. Because every bit of writing feels like it has been developed by two good writers, constantly going back and forth saying, hey, wouldn't it be funny if this, and how about we put that in?
Yeah, I can't do it if you're watching.
Whenever something new about the characters and the world was revealed through voiceover and gameplay, I was genuinely delighted, which is something very hard to accomplish with a story snob like me. And it never feels like the jokes and humor fell full out flat, didn't land, or hinder the experience in any way.
I will get a couple of them fucking lemons now!
It's not out of the question that you might have a very minor case of serious brain damage.
I even think that Portal 2 is pretty damn clever plot structure-wise.
Initiating surprise in 3, 2, 1.
Because even though it's hard to think of Portal 2 as anything but an 8-hour game now, succeeding the very short experience of Portal 1, you really didn't know what you had to expect just from the game alone at the time. And the writers picked up on that, so that at around the time frame where Portal 1 ended, they pulled the rug right from under you, letting you experience more of the world and effectively doubling the time it takes to complete the story. And I'm pretty sure they didn't just do that so that people wouldn't be able to refund it after they experienced the story like they could in Portal 1. No, that would just be a silly suggestion. So let's just all marvel at how the two-sided nature of this game also means that the Portal series in its entirety basically encompasses 3 plot lines. And you know what that means, right? Yes, that is exactly what it means.
Hey, is that about ready?
These things, they take time.
Half-Life 3 is still never gonna happen though. I'd like to think of the relationship between Portal 1 and 2 as being somewhat close to that of a 3-act structure. Admittedly, the first act looks on par with some Minecraft mods now, but if you decided to immediately switch tabs after you've beaten Portal 1 over to Portal 2, then I'd say you don't really feel left behind.
Good morning. You have been in suspension for 50 days.
Though if you wonder, there's always the free 27-page lab rat comic tying both games closer together, but never mind. But of course, with this overarching nature, it goes without saying that playing Portal 1 is mandatory. Not doing that would be like watching Back to the Future 2 and 3 without having watched Back to the Future 1. Or to pull a video game comparison, playing the Back to the Future Telltale game without having seen Back to the Future 1, 2 and 3, and also not having gotten yourself lobotomized.
It was just a wee tap.
I'll let that statement hang in the air, and there we go. In talking about the whole experience of Portal as a series, you can clearly mark the points where each act ends. Portal 1 being Act 1, and the first half of Portal 2 being Act 2, and everything past the elevator rug pulling being Act 3. Or to use another method that would surely make my English teacher proud, here's that old hero's journey. And this one is a bit more complicated, because Portal 1 in itself is a full hero's journey, while also being a smaller part of the greater hero's journey of the greater Portal duology. Because the end of Portal 1 is basically just a taste of the freedom that is still needing to be properly acquired. Like breaking through to the surface and grasping for air before the forces of Aperture literally drag you back down, forcing you to complete a grander, deeper and longer hero's journey surrounding the tiny one you just completed. Which is why I'd say Portal 2 is the ideal sequel, narratively speaking. It elevates the focus and sheds new light on characters we've already known while also giving us new things and new characters to love. I mean, having the cold, soulless computer from the first game throw a bitch fit while constantly insulting you is really entertaining.
Remember before when I was talking about smelly garbage standing around being useless? That was a metaphor. I was actually talking about you.
While there are subtle differences in the way both games handle her, I think they complement each other, because parallel to you, GLaDOS is also undergoing a journey. And I found myself really admiring that they still managed to convey both of your stories in a way so that you don't need to catch up on Portal 1 every time you start a playthrough here. The way I describe Portal 1 is that it gives Portal 2 filling, but doesn't require it. The same in reverse is true as well, but in tandem, they managed to create some of the best times you can have in video games. So if anything else I've said hasn't convinced you yet, I really do urge you to play Portal 1 and 2 if you haven't. Because in the 12 years since the original, there has never been anything like it again, and there probably never will be. To readdress me reminiscing at the beginning of this video, well, I do think it's sad that Valve isn't making games anymore, and belittling an overplayed meme aside, it is of course frustrating that we'll most likely never see these characters outside of fan projects again.
It was a teaser trailer for a media update for a community-made project based on an unofficial fanfiction written by a retired Valve employee. Hey Valve, that's where we're at right now.
Should they have pardon the pun, sourced their games? Pump out products that were probably not going to match their high standards? I mean, okay, I've scrapped large chunks of this video and taken my time with it too, but the problem with Valve is that they decided to slowly close their game development branch altogether. And remember when there were like only 2 people working on the Half-Life project, and then one of them just said fuck it and leaked the whole script? That's just crazy. But I suppose at least we can thank them for the memories and for not doing a mainstream game industry and run their franchises into the ground with Mr. Mark microtransactions and Luke lootbox at the wheel. Oh wait, I forgot that Dota exists. But honestly, who gives a shit? I'm sorry that I haven't uploaded much for the last couple of months, but it's been a bit of a less than stellar last year for me, having dropped out of school, having my estranged father disown me, you know, tiny stuff like that just piling up. So I'd like to thank everyone for sticking with my channel. And if you have any thoughts to Valve's current situation, please tell them to me in the comments. I'd honestly love to hear them. This has been your fresh gamer boy Panth, telling you to stay epic!